It's time for Ringside. Got a bunch of news lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado, we're just gonna According to Fightful Select, there were discussions at one point to do Logan Paul vs. LA Knight for the United States title at WrestleMania 40, but they don't know if that's still the plan as of now. I think that's something that they should do. I would 100% love to see it. I would love to see the back and forth, especially on the microphone. I think Logan Paul has proven himself quite enough times now when we don't have to keep sitting here being like, wow, I don't like him, but man, he sure can wrestle. Like, he's established himself at this point. And, you know, what better person to go up against than LA Knight, right? Like I said, I feel like he's really good on the mic. And, you know, the back and forth that they would, the two of them would definitely have would be really interesting to see. So there's not really much to say because, you know, you gotta wait and hope that it's a match that they actually do end up putting together. I see it happening. I mean, you know, you could argue that Kevin Owens and Logan Paul was also a WrestleMania match. Like, you could, you know what I mean? Like, enough time and dedication, you know, I could really be excited to see these matches. I think it also depends on the chemistry, and that's also why I'm looking forward to the feud, because I feel like LA Knight and Logan Paul would actually have really good chemistry between one another. That's what I'm saying. The promo battle will be really good, because I feel like they could bounce off of each other really well. So, just gonna have to wait and see if that actually ends up happening in the near future. Sticking with WWE, for what it's worth, Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio that Mercedes Moné was looking for a raise from WWE. She wasn't asking for more than other top stars in the company. A raise I can completely understand. She wasn't really going in there asking for like $1 billion, right? If I remember correctly, she was asking to be paid as much as Charlotte Flair. And at the time, if my memory serves me properly, you're right, Charlotte Flair was the highest paid women's wrestler. She was up there. She was getting paid a lot. And, you know, Mercedes was like, well, you know, it's only fair that you pay me what I'm owed. And then WWE was like, no, we're not going to do that. And then they fell through. And then AEW went with them. So I'm not going to keep talking about this because I've already said it 1,000,001 different times. But a bit odd that WWE was like, hey, listen, I don't know if that's what we got in the cards right now. And AEW was like, absolutely, come on in. Come right on through. You know? So maybe they did it because they knew their ticket sales were kind of going down, so that's probably why they're grabbing both Okada and Moné. But I don't know, again, because I'm not their financial advisor, so I can't sit here and be like, oh, I don't know if they have the money to be spending on contracts like that for Mercedes Moné and Okada. But again, I don't know anything. So I guess the only hope is that this isn't a massive flop by AEW. The hope is that AEW doesn't do this, and it's pretty much the same exact trajectory and speed, right, and technique, and there's no urgency. There's no, like, all right, we've got Okada and we've got Moné, like, let's actually get something going here. I don't know. I heard that the morale was up, and now I'm hearing that there's frustration in AEW right now, and, I mean, both can be true, if we're going to be honest here. Both of them can exist in the same timeline. And I feel like Mercedes Moné and Okada are going to get caught up in this. I don't know how. It's like a tornado. I don't know how high up in the air they're going to go and how fast they're going to get whipped around. But I'm worried that they're going to get caught up in this little knot that AEW is, you know, struggling to pull out right now. So hopefully that's not the case. Moving right along, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Rey Mysterio should return in, quote, a few weeks. He was originally hoping for late January, but couldn't make that happen. Now, if I remember, I said way back when, I was like, all right, he's injured, you know, Santos took him out. It'd be great to just restart the feud and, you know, have him go after him because that's something for them to do. Now, a couple months have gone by, and I've started to rethink that. I personally am starting to change my opinion on that because I feel like it's just been a bit too long. I feel like, if anything, I feel like the LWO Legado del Fantasma storyline is kind of like fizzled out. I mean, this has been going on since Backlash. I mean, and that's been going on for like a year. I mean, you know, it's been going on almost a year now that was, you know, that pay-per-view's already happened. We're already coming up on the next one. And we've still got Legado del Fantasma going after LWO. And then Rey Mysterio coming back and basically continuing on the feud. I'm not saying that it wouldn't help, but it's definitely time to, you know, transition into something else. And I feel like that's what's happening. You've got Legado del Fantasma and LWO. I mean, I feel like Legado del Fantasma is trying to move on. And I think that would probably be the best decision. And I think LWO should also move on. I think Rey should come back and be like, hey, Santos, you know what? I think it actually would be better if Santos and Rey were to come back and be like, all right, Santos, you and me, Elimination Chamber, Rey wins, Rey gets his win back, and then they kind of move on from that. If you've got to put a bow on it, then Elimination Chamber, just pre-show, knock it out, nothing to worry about. I don't think it's something that should carry on. You know, I think that if Ray had to come back late January, then we'd be singing a completely different song right now. But it's been a little while, and I feel like now is probably a good time for Ray and LW and all of them really to transition to something else. Hopefully that's what happens. But if not, then like I said, an elimination chamber match, blow off match, that'll be fine. Moving over to NJPW, there are some Observer news that also notes Kota Ibushi will be out anywhere between 6 months to a full year. All I'm going to say is that this is going to give him time to think. This is going to give him time to sit down and ask himself, should I really be putting my body on the line like this? Should I be putting myself at risk and anybody else that is in the ring with me at risk? Because if I get injured and I choose to fight through the injury, knowing that this is not an injury that I can just sort of ignore, right? Running the risk of, essentially dragging the match out for way longer than it needs to. Because I keep saying this, and this is the reason why I say it, is we're out of the era now where you have to ignore injuries and everybody thinks you're so badass for, surpassing an injury that you really should not have, tried to sidestep in the beginning, right? Because all it does, I've noticed this, crazy to think that if you try and power through an injury, a severe one, by the way, it only worsens it and really brings the match down as a whole. Like, yes, it sucks when we're like 5 minutes into a match and somebody gets injured or they over-rotate or something like that. Obviously, that sucks. But as soon as the dust settles, all of us collectively breathe a sigh of relief that, first of all, that's how far the injury got, right? And second of all, they're okay. Like, you never want to hear when someone gets injured, but you're always so glad when you hear that they walked off on their own volition, like they didn't need any help, and Ibushi needed help, and he's going to be out for quite some time, and it was one of those matches that should have ended way sooner than it did, and it didn't, and I hope that Ibushi is taking this time to be like, you know what, I don't think I should be doing that anymore. I mean, I personally should not be allowing myself to carry on through a match that I know is physically taking a toll on my body, right? And if I'm not careful, my recklessness could harm other people, and it brings, like, again, with the crowd, my point is that the crowd, we're not trying to see you get hurt, and we know when you are hurt, like, it's very obvious, we can obviously tell, like, we can tell when wrestlers are, like, kind of slowing down in the ring, like, it's very obvious, so to still sort of, and I can't really speak for Okada. I can't speak for Ibushi. I doubt that he's sitting there being like, yes, I'm tearing my body apart for the sake of the show. I'm so happy about this. I hope that that's not what he's thinking. I doubt that's what he's thinking. But there's obviously a certain, we're going to say, like, disconnect when you choose to wrestle through a match knowing that you're injured. I feel like that's when you and I kind of start to differentiate between one another. And I'm hoping that doesn't have anything to do with any type of, like, I don't know how to explain it, just something where he feels like he has to do it, So hopefully this year or 6 months will make him rethink, that type of stuff in the ring. Finally, Julia Hart probably won't be cleared in February, but AEW doesn't expect her injury to be a long-term issue, says Fightful. I said this about Shotzi, and there's nothing against her, but it really sucks when the company doesn't really have a whole lot going on with you, and you also get injured. It's like a double punch in the eye. It really sucks. And I still don't know what the injury is. I looked it up, and it hadn't really said anything in specifics, so she's out. They don't expect it to be a long-term injury, which is great. There's creative awaiting her approval, but if it's awaiting her approval, then obviously it's something that she doesn't want to do, right? I doubt it's anything crazy. But if it's awaiting her approval, then obviously whatever it is, it's not that good, I guess. That's all I'm speculating here. My biggest worry is that, you can, and I said this, you can have storylines for her. It doesn't need to be this super 8-week-long, well-thought-out storyline. Something as simple as, I don't care that you're spooky, Julia Hart. I want to face you for the TBS Championship. Something as simple as that. If you can do it for Orange Cassidy, you can do it for Julia Hart. Seems a little bit weird that you don't have anything for the TBS Women's Champion. A lot of it would have to do with the injury, which I completely understand. But I'm a little bit worried that the injury is not the only thing that's stopping AEW as a whole, really, from giving matches to Julia Hart. So, there's not much else to say because I don't want to harp on this for too long because I've already talked about it. All I'm going to say is that I want Julia Hart to have more matches, and I think that she should deserve a better title reign than the one that she's currently having now with the TBS Championship. What do we talk about? I'd love to see Logan Paul versus LA Knight. I think that'd be a great match. I think the promos would be very interesting to see. It's something that they could still do if they really wanted to do it. And yeah, can't wait to see if it actually does end up happening. Mercedes Moné was looking for a raise with WWE, right? Didn't go with him. Going with AEW. That's her decision. Worried that AEW doesn't really actually have the financial status to carry Okada and Monet. But that's just my personal opinion. And we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing. Mysterio should return in a few weeks. I don't think you should go after Escobar. I think the feud's done. I think if he had came back sooner, maybe you could have salvaged something. But everyone seems like they're kind of moving on now. WrestleMania season is obviously in tow. Or, well, not in tow, but you get the point, right? So I think it's probably best for both of them, Ray and Escobar, to move on. And that's why I was like, if you're going to do it, fine. Do it Elimination Chamber, pre-show. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. You know, Bob's your uncle. Ibushi will be out anywhere between 6 months to a year. That's great. You know, if you're going to be running around hurting yourself in the middle of the ring, then maybe you should take just a little bit of time off, just to cool down, rest your body, right? I wanted to be safe, and I don't think wrestling through an injury is the way to do that. Julia Hart won't be cleared until February. AEW doesn't expect her injury to be long-term. That's good. That's what you want to hear. A bit worried that the storylines, or the lack thereof, I should say, that she had when she wasn't even injured, or at least from before she was injured, doesn't really bode well for when she recovers from her injury. Hoping that she gets put in more matches. And man, I really don't want this to be the ballad of Julia Hart. And they also say Nick Comoroto isn't injured and has been absent. Well, Fightful said this. Has been absent from AEW simply because they've chosen not to use him right now. Stinks. He's a great guy, great wrestler. I think it's just the fact that wasn't he part of the Best Friends? If I remember correctly, he wasn't in the Elite. I know he was part of the Best Friends. No, I swear to God, it was Nick Comoroto and Brandon Cutler and the Young Bucks. Nick Comoroto was somewhere in there. He was somewhere over there. But listen, if they don't have anything for him, they don't have anything for him. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. And as always, big hugs. Big hugs all around.